There are baseball games where the crowd makes the history. Then there are baseball games where the building makes the history, because this one happens in the Astrodome. Brand new kind of ballpark. Ballpark with a ceiling, artificial turf, and daylight that doesn't feel like daylight. It's a place where pop flies can get lost, and noise can get swallowed. The game can sometimes feel a little clinical. On Father's Day 1967, inside that dome, 22-year-old rookie steps onto the mound with a fastball that people keep describing the same way. Harder than they expected. Grady Hatton, the Astros manager, later says he's amazed by the game the kid threw. Dave Adlesh, the catcher, says, "I never caught anyone who threw harder." Across from him is a knuckleballer who's still starting early in his pitching life, Phil Niekro, in what's only his third career start. Across from that's a lineup with a name that turns every pitch into a decision, Hank Aaron. This isn't just a no-hitter. This is the first no-hitter in the history of the Astrodome. It's the first no-hitter ever pitched in a dome stadium or on artificial turf. You can feel the tension coming before the first pitch because the dome is built to keep weather out, but it can't keep pressure out. Astros 07 is the Don Wilson episode, and this is the day the dome learns what a fastball sounds like. Welcome back to the Astros 100. I'm documenting one game per player until I reach 100. This is Astros 07, the player's Don Wilson, and the game is June 18th, 1967, Sunday, Father's Day. The Braves at the Astros. Houston wins 2-0 and Wilson throws a no-hitter. Today's idea: sometimes a franchise doesn't announce itself with a trophy. It announces itself with a day nobody can ever take back. All right, let's set the table. This season, the Astros come into this game at 9th place, 25-38, 14.5 games behind the Reds. They're not contending. They're building. Still, in 1967, building means living through a lot of nights where the result feels decided by the 6th inning. But it's also not boring, because the roster has real names to it. Jimmy Wynn is becoming a force. In fact, 3 days earlier, he becomes the first Astro to ever hit 3 home runs in one game. Rusty Staub is a young star, and the Astros have Eddie Matthews, a living piece of baseball history, now wearing Houston colors in his lone season with them. This is a team that loses a lot, but it loses loudly, with personality. The Braves arrive in Houston, arriving just above 500. We can actually see the moment-to-moment record because they've been in Houston all weekend. On June 16th, the Braves win. On June 17th, there's a doubleheader split. And coming into June 18th, Atlanta is 31-29. Then the no-hitter drops into 31-30. So the Astros are fighting uphill. The Braves are trying not to slide. The series context matters. The weekend story, this is not a random matchup. It's a weekend that already has emotion. The day before this no-hitter, June 17th, Eddie Matthews hit a walk-off homer against his former team to win one for Houston. So by Sunday, the air is already a little tense. You've got a legend, Matthews, trying to prove he's still sharp. Another legend, Aaron, trying to punish every mistake. And a rookie, Wilson, trying to earn the right to belong. And now the dome is full. Around baseball that week, let's zoom out for 1 minute because June 1967 is one of those stretches where baseball keeps stumbling into this will be remembered. June 15th, Jimmy Wynn hits 3 home runs in one game, the first 3-homer game in Astros history. June 17th, Tigers Athletics goes 19 innings, and the winning homer comes in the 19th. That's not a sport. That's an endurance test. June 18th, Wilson throws his no-hitter, and on the 21st, Yankees versus Red Sox. Turns into a beanball incident that gets remembered as part of the 1967 tension in the sport's biggest rivalry. Over the full season arc, 1967 ends with Cardinals winning the NL, the Red Sox winning the American League, and a World Series that goes 7 games. So this isn't a quiet year. It's a year where history keeps bumping into people on random Tuesdays and Sundays. And on this Sunday, history chooses Houston. All right, I'm going to dig into the bios, the managers and starting pitchers here. Grady Hatton's a former big leaguer turned baseball lifer. Born in Beaumont, Texas, played in the majors, made an all-star team, then moved into managing. He becomes the Astros manager in 1966. and runs the club into 1968, which means his job is basically develop kids, keep the room steady, and sell belief, while the standings say no. Hatton has a manager's personality that shows up in this game in two ways. First, he trusts the kid, and second, he's visibly suffering while trusting the kid. And you'll hear it in what he has to say afterwards. The Braves are managed by Billy Hitchcock. He's another longtime baseball man. He's played, coached, managed, worked in front offices. He's born in Alabama, pro ball for decades. He's managing the Braves in their second season in Atlanta. His situation's different from Hatton's. Houston's rebuilding openly. Atlanta's trying to avoid becoming disappointing. All right, the starters. Don Wilson. Wilson's born February 12, 1945, in Monroe, Louisiana. He's a right-hander. He's known for two things early: hard and wild when he misses. He debuts late in 1966, and in 1967, his first full year. For the Braves, Phil Niekro's on the hill. He's the knuckleball guy, Knucksy, and if you only remember one stat, remember, he ends his career with 318 wins and a Hall of Fame plaque. But in June 1967, he's still becoming himself. He started the year as a reliever and is still new to starting. This is only his third career start. So this matchup is weird. A rookie fireballer versus a future Hall of Fame knuckleballer, who's not really turned into that guy yet. That matters because it keeps the game close, makes the no-hitter louder. All right, let's name the gravity on the field. For Atlanta, Hank Aaron's in right field. For Houston, Eddie Matthews is on first base. And on the mound, Phil Niekro will be a Hall of Famer. And then you got Hall of Fame vibe behind the plate for Atlanta. Bob Uecker is catching the knuckleball today, which is already its own form of hazard pay. But the true all-time matchup here is simpler: a rookie versus Hank Aaron, with the final out on the line. That's not a matchup you plan. That's a matchup baseball hands you. Now, I wouldn't call these two teams rivals, not exactly. Not like the Yankees and Red Sox or the Dodgers and Giants. But they do play each other constantly. This era's schedule means divisional familiarity without divisions. And the 1967 Braves end up playing Houston 18 times. By the end of the year, Atlanta's record against Houston is 11-7, so the familiarity is real. Here's the common thread: trades, recycled people. You can pull on this thread, Eddie Matthews. Right before this season, the Braves trade Matthews to Houston. The return includes Bob Bruce, former Colt 45 Astro. If you watched the day before this game, you saw Matthews hit that walk-off homer off the kind of pitching staff that still carries pieces of Houston's past. That means that this series has a personal edge. Matthews is proving something to Atlanta. Atlanta's proving they can live without him. And Houston's using him as a bridge between new franchise and real baseball history. Now, there's not really a lot of smack talk back in the 60s that's well preserved, but we got it here. The Braves talk. Wilson later says the Braves started yelling at him around the 6th or 7th inning about the no-hitter. That's the kind of baseball cruelty that I respect. If you're going to get no-hit, at least try to make the pitcher hear you talk. But he doesn't remember much by the 9th, because by then it's not smack talk anymore. It's survival. All right, Don Wilson is one of those pitchers who feels like a pure product of his time. A hard thrower, lots of innings, not much coddling. He's born in Monroe, Louisiana, grows up in Compton, California, and goes to Centennial High School, then Compton Community College. The Astros signed him in 1966. He debuts on September 29th, 1966, and in 1967 he becomes a He debuts on September 29th, 1966, and in 1967 he becomes a full-time big leaguer. In 1967, his first full season, 31 games, 28 starts, 10-9, 2.79 ERA, 184 innings, and a strikeout profile that tells you what kind of arm this is: 159 strikeouts. The biggest stamp is this game, June 18th, 1967. No hits the Braves, 2-0, 15 strikeouts. Later, he becomes a long-term Astros rotation guy. For his career, he goes 104-92, 3.15 earned run average, 1,283 strikeouts, all with Houston. He throws 2 no-hitters, this one and another one in 1969. He makes the All-Star team in 1971, his best season, 16-10, with a 2.45 ERA. And then, the end is tragic and sudden. Don Wilson dies on January 5th, 1975, at the age of 29, in Houston. Later that year, the Astros retire his number 40. So when you watch his career backwards, the way baseball history forces you to, this no-hitter isn't just a highlight. It's a cornerstone. It's proof on one day that the peak was real. And no-hitter doesn't mean what it sounds like. This is a quick pedantic aside I'm going to go on every day. I'm warning you, I'm going to do this every episode till I get it out of my system. The Astros already had 2 no-hitters before this one. Neither was a clean no-hit, no-run game. In 1963, Don Notabart throws a no-hitter and a run still scores. In 1964, Ken Johnson throws a no-hitter and loses 1-0. So Wilson's game is the 3rd no-hitter in franchise history. But it's the first in the Astrodome, and it's the first that ends in a shutout no-hitter. That's baseball. That's the vocabulary that lies to you unless you interrogate it. Okay, I'm done for now. This game matters to Wilson for the obvious reason. It's a no-hitter. But it matters for a deeper reason, too. It's the day he stops being the prospect and start being the guy who did it. And you can hear the way he talks about the 9th inning. He says he was petrified out there. He says he could hear the fans when he walked out for the 9th. Then after that, it's all a blur. And then the key moment, Hank Aaron. Wilson explains it in a way that tells you how he thinks. Full count, pressure. And he decides, I'm not walking him. He's going to break up this no-hitter, or I'm going to get him out. That's not just bravado. That's a rookie trying to become a major leaguer in real time. Okay, here's your play-by-play. The Atlanta lineup includes Felipe Alou, Tito Francona, Hank Aaron, Mac Jones. And then the names I tell you this isn't a joke. Euchre catching, Negro pitching. Houston runs out Julio Gote, Sonny Jackson, Jimmy Wynn, Rusty Staub, Eddie Matthews, and the kid on the mound. The tone of Wilson early Sabres game story sets the tone immediately. Hatton says he's amazed. Adlesh says he's never caught anyone throwing harder. And the Astros Daily Recap makes the result feel simple. Wilson simply overpowered the Braves. But this game isn't simple. It's tense. Because 2-0 games are always one mistake away from becoming something else. Innings 1 through 3. The Dome learning the rhythm. The first 3 innings are the kind of baseball the Astrodome was built to feature. Low scoring, clean outs. The sense that the building is swallowing sound. Wilson's piling up strikeouts. Negro is keeping Houston from breaking open early. And here's a detail. Negro goes 7 innings, gives up 8 hits, 2 runs, and keeps it close. So while Wilson's making history, Negro's making sure that it hurts. In the 4th inning, Houston scores, the only runs of the day. Sonny Jackson singles, Jimmy Wynn doubles, and that's the first run. Then the second comes on a sequence that feels like Astrodome baseball. Staub singles, Wynn comes around, and Eddie Matthews gets credited with an RBI on an infield out. It's not glamorous, but it's enough today. And now the no-hitter has something it needs to become more legendary. A lead that makes every pitch heavier. In the 5th inning, the perfect game ends. Wilson retires the first 14 batters. Then he walks Dennis Menke in the 9th. Perfect game gone, but the no-hitter's still alive. And now every out matters. In the 6th inning, the defensive play that saves a no-no. Felipe Alou hits one sharply to the left of third, the kind of ball that becomes a hit if it sneaks through. Bob Aspromonte dives, gloves it, throws him out. Astros Daily's blunt. If Aspromonte doesn't make that play, it's a hit. So when people talk about solo no-hitters, one man did it, this is the correction. No-hitters are team events with the single name on the headline. In the 7th inning, Wilson walks Hank Aaron on a full count, and the whole stadium inhales, because it's Hank Aaron on first base in a no-hitter. But the inning dies anyway. Wilson finds his way out. In the 8th inning, the game turns into a ceremony. Saber notes that Wilson strikes out the side in the 8th inning, losing 3 consecutive pinch hitters. Imagine being the pinch hitter. Your job, put the ball in play. Instead, you're walking back to the bench with the dome screaming, knowing you just fed the legend. In the 9th inning, the dome tries to interfere. In the top of the 9th, the tension is now physical. Wilson says he can hear the fans out there. And the first batter reaches. Dennis Menke draws his second walk of the game, this time leading off the 9th. The lineup turns. Philippe Alou pops a foul ball up, and the dome does the dome thing. Catcher Dave Adlesh turns the wrong way and loses it in the ceiling. And Aspromonte, the same guy who saved the 6th, charges in and makes the catch almost behind home plate. 1 out. Wilson strikes out Tito Francona. Then Hank Aaron comes to the plate. You can't write it like this. Full count comes again, and Wilson decides no nibbling, no walking, and no smart baseball. He throws his fastball. Wilson's quote later, it's 3-2, and he decides Aaron is either breaking it up or getting out. Allen fouls one off. Then he swings and misses. No hitter. 15 strikeouts. And Saber says that Wilson finished in a blaze of glory, striking out 5 of the last 6. Wilson throws 143 pitches in this no-hitter. Astros Daily even breaks it down. 110 fastballs, 31 sliders, and just 2 changeups. That's not modern baseball. That's a different species. Now here's the brain twister. This is the Astros' 3rd no-hitter, but it's also their first no-hitter. That happens in the Astrodome, ends as a shutout, and is the first ever in a domed stadium, or on turf. So it's the 3rd in the franchise, but it's the first one that feels like the word no-hitter should mean what the word says. Baseball is constantly correcting your assumptions, inning by inning. For Houston, this is a day that cuts through the record. They're not going to win the pennant in 1967. They finished 69 and 93. So what do you sell to fans? You sell them days like this. You sell them the idea that the franchise can produce something nobody else has. And Wilson gives them a day that can't be dismissed. For Atlanta, it's a loss that's weirdly survivable because it's not, you got beat. It's more like you got caught inside history. And they're still above water, 31 and 30. But it's also a warning. If you can get no hit by a 9th place team, you're not protected. Not by your lineup, not by your status, and not by Hank Aaron. Wilson admits he was petrified in the 9th. He says, I've never had a better fastball. Hatton is exhausted and proud at the same time. He said he's amazed, and he jokes that managing this was hard. He says managing this is too hard on a manager. Aaron, after striking out to end it, said the pitch beat him clean. It's young guys like this that make me want to retire. And then there was the clubhouse theater. Saber reports the owner, Roy Hofheinz, sends a case of champagne and tears up Wilson's contract to give him a new one with a $1,000 raise. And that's how expansion franchises build mythology. A young pitcher, a new stadium, champagne in the room, and a raise as a souvenir. And this one really gets under my skin, okay? 3 days before this game, Wilson throws 155 pitches. Hatton even debates on whether he should start him on short rest. He does it anyways. Then in the no-hitter, he throws 143 more. Baseball today would call that a crime scene. I'm not saying modern baseball is wrong. I'm saying it's strange to hold both truths at once. Yeah, you want pitchers healthy, but you also want moments where a manager looks at a kid and says, go take it. We don't get that anymore. Not enough. That's my take on it anyways. Hatton says he's dying at the dugout. He's still letting it happen. And it irritates me that we've gotten so good at preventing tragedy that we're also preventing a certain kind of glory. It's not a solution, it's a trade-off. And let's admit right now, baseball is a sport built on trades. All right, moving on. After June 18th, immediately after the no-hitter, the schedule doesn't pause to celebrate. Astros Daily notes, St. Louis comes into town next, then Cincinnati, then Houston heads out on the road trip. Over the full season, Houston finishes 69 and 93, ninth place. But they have real markers. 3 All-Stars, Mike Queller, Jimmy Wynn, and Rusty Staub. Eddie Matthews hits his 500th home run later that year. So the standings are ugly, but the franchise is accumulating artifacts. This no-hitter is the loudest artifact. Atlanta leaves Houston and keeps playing because that's what teams do after they get no-hit. They pretend it didn't happen and hope the next day's better. On June 19th and June 20th, they lose 1-run games to LA, and by the end of June, they're still above 500-ish territory. 37 and 36 at June 30th. But the full season, man, it's a slide. By the year's end, they're 77 and 85. The season costs manager Billy Hitchcock his job late in September, so this no-hitter isn't the reason Atlanta falls. But it fits the mood. It's a talented team that keeps getting reminded. Not always in control. After this game, the no-hitter is the first big stamp, but Wilson keeps putting up real numbers. He becomes the Astros' opening day starter in 1969 and throws his second no-hitter, a 4-0 no-hit revenge game at Crossley Field, the day after the Reds no-hit Houston. In 1971, he peaks statistically, 16 and 10, 2.45 ERA, a massive workload. This lone all-star selection. Then in the middle of a normal life arc that should have had another decade in it, he dies January 1975 at the age of 29. The Astros retire his uniform, number 40, that spring. But I don't want this episode to be about tragic pitcher. I want it to be what it was on that Sunday. It's a young man with a fastball in a new building, making the sport admit something. The Astros are real. Astros 08, the player is going to be Mike Queller. And if we're staying in 1967, because if Astros 07 is the day the Dome hears a rookie's fastball, Astros 08 is the day a left-hander reminds everyone that Houston can win with craft, not just force. But that's next. That was Astros 07, Don Wilson, June 18th, 1967. Braves at Astros, no-hitter, 2-0. If you're following along with Astros 100, thank you. Same deal every time. One player, one game, one reason it mattered. And I'll see you in the next one. Hey, buddy.